Live and well, we started off casually talking and we realized, wait a second, this is an excellent opportunity to just, I guess, just to share our interests in what kind of stuff it is we talk about. So, it's a lot of crypto and NFTs, and of course, we'll get right back to that. But I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, and to be able to see just how much has changed since in the last decade. I had the question, like, isn't Goku an actual god now? So what? I mean, they got multiple universes. I don't know if they've messed with time travel yet, but I mean, like, I just don't understand where else they go after decades.
Yeah, so basically, just to break down these two forms for people who may not have been involved in the Dragon Ball world, Nate, this is what we're talking about to start the show, man. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna watch. I'm just gonna do something else while you guys talk about this.
I mean, we were talking about it.
This is so uninteresting.
We were talking about NFTs.
Okay, so basically, now in the Dragon Ball world, they've opened up the multiverse. So there's a bunch of different universes, and there's an entire pantheon, right? So the angel and the god of destruction of each universe, basically, they are meant to keep things in check, keep the balance of destruction and peace. The angel is about twice as strong as the god of destruction, and so the god of destruction and angel of Universe 7, the one that our two heroes are a part of, they are now training Goku and Vegeta. And Goku, in this form, has learned Ultra Instinct, which is the constant state that the angels are in, to where they are completely at peace and one with their own bodies, and they're no longer thinking and strategizing. They're rather just moving on their own. So yeah, Goku has basically become an angel in training with this form, and Vegeta has opened up Ultra Ego, which is the state that the God of Destruction is in, and it's basically just moving and fighting with ultimate purpose, I guess is the best way to describe it. But yeah, that's the story behind my background.
Well,
that's what we were talking about.
I appreciate the catch up on Dragon Ball Z. I know, Nate, you were just talking about some recent drop that I mean, you were just describing your thoughts on it. What was the name of that thing? You said it was well, stupid looking. Outside of that, what's it called? Oh wait, did we lose him?
Nate, are you here, bro?
I don't know if he's able to hear us.
Did you? Are you done? Are you done talking about that now?
Yeah, ask a direct question.
Okay, good. Can you hear us? I muted it because literally nobody cares at all.
Yeah, we had to find something to talk about.
I was doing more important things, talking about the new ages of Dragon Ball Z, which are terrible. I'm an actual Dragon Ball Z follower, so I miss the old school stuff. And it wasn't all about these new worlds and junk like that. It was just about monkeys, good fighting and getting the Dragon Balls and trying to keep Goku from turning into that big ape thing. So that's what it was all about.
Okay, well, this is what it's about now, and I love it.
Well,
I love all of it. That's not even accurate. But Nate, what's this freaking NFT project that I believe you missed out on? You were really pissing along about it. I don't know if I want to
tell you about it anymore, just because.
I mean, you were pissing along about it, so.
No, it's. I mean, I'm not super upset I missed it. I mean, it's kind of annoying because it's worth so much. I mean, I thought it was going to flop big time.
Yeah. What made you think it was going to flop?
Because first off, they put a boundary on the whitelist for 2.5 ETH. That's just not reasonable for the majority of the market. And I think they're a derivative of what are they? They're a derivative of some other project that's also very large, and so it just didn't make sense to me that it would really blow up that much.
How many did they release? Or how many did they sell?
I don't know. I really wasn't paying too much attention to it until it actually blew up.
Gotcha.
I think it was like 8,000, maybe either 5, 8, or 9 or 10 or so. I don't know, somewhere in between
5K
there.
plus at 2.5 ETH each. Man, that artwork must have been something amazing, huh?
No, it was literal trash. It's like the dumbest looking stuff you've ever seen in your entire life. It's these dumb looking owls, these like pixelated owls. Like CryptoPunks have more like resolution than these things do. Like they're terrible, and
So then,
this doesn't make sense. There's no I don't think there's any utility to them whatsoever. And honestly, tons of people were trashing on the product. I honestly think it was overhyped by whales, and I think it'll dump. I don't know, maybe not. I think it's a mecha, like another mechaverse.
didn't Mechaverse dump?
Mechaverse was overly hyped. Everybody wanted Mechaverse, and then it dumped below 1 ETH after like a day.
Oh, brutal. Those things are awesome looking, though.
And Mr.
So-
Disagreeable is in full effect today. My goodness.
Yeah, it's
Sounds like it was a
It's
long
great.
morning.
it's been a morning to say the least. So yeah, I mean, expect if you need Mr. Disagreeable, just expect him to be here today.
Well, shoot, look,
Yeah.
what do we got? I'm Mr. Disagreeable. What's going on with the markets right now? Why are we crashing?
Well, I mean, I would honestly wonder if so much liquidity is being, because OpenSea's volume has not been very high for the past month so far, which everyone was kind of feeling weird about, anyways.
What kind of drop are you talking? Like 20%, 30%, 10?
I don't know the exact figure. I just look at this. There's a chart on IC tools that I use. And just relatively speaking, it was significantly low. Like at least, I would say, judging by the chart, I would say at least had to be 20 or at least 40%, maybe 40 to 50% or more. Just
Yeah,
there just wasn't a
that's
lot going on.
significant.
There's wasn't a lot going on. No one was really doing anything. I mean, look at Neo Tokyo. Neo Tokyo's floor was like in the 50s and 60s, and now it's at 10. You've really only had the blue chips that have stayed stable, but pretty much everything else has gone down. But then Moonbirds just sucked like $100 million out of the market.
What?
So-
Is this the same dumb owls we were talking about before?
Yeah,
Moonbirds, 100 million.
it's like 80 to 100 million or more, I think, honestly.
That is
But it has-
obscene. Like,
It's just
wasn't
been sucked.
Cardano a total of like in the 100 million to 60 million or something? This is an entire blockchain funding we're talking about for an NFT project.
Right. So that's why I don't like it very much, because it's like they've sucked so much liquidity out. And to me, it's like, if you just look at the numbers, they just like don't make sense. Like there is literally no reason. Okay. So let's see here. So 69,000 ETH has been passed through this dumb project. Okay. Sorry. I was way low. We've seen about 200 million that has flowed through this project. Sorry, 80 to 100 million is what they have made, I think, off the project so far.
Yeah, I'm looking at it's 75 million ish is what the sell was.
And
Wow, so
200
these
million
guys
has
really
passed
they
through.
created 75 million there. But there's no way that it's not an inside job. Like in the sense of these projects, I'm not gonna say like I've been watching too much CoffeeZilla or nothing, but
Yeah. No, that's what I
there's
fear
only
about it.
so much money floating around, and if a lot of people made hundreds of millions, some of them tens of millions, many of them millions, a lot of people, it's tough to off ramp a large amount of money like that. So to create virtual fine art and to replicate the well-established art industry that already is used to funnel, I couldn't even fathom, but it's definitely in the tens of billions, probably way higher than that. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm worried that it will dump. But other than that, honestly, I don't really know what else I haven't really been looking at around what's going on with the world. I've been focusing so much on NFTs for the past few weeks. So I don't know, maybe it's liquidity getting sucked out of the market from Moonbirds. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, it's still it's an ETH, but it's kind of not, because once it gets transferred from ETH to the NFT, you don't own the ETH anymore, own the NFT, which, yeah, it's an ETH based asset. But So maybe it's 200 million getting sucked out of the market. Maybe it's,
Man,
because it's like, I know some people that made some big sales off of them, and I can't imagine that they kept their money in ETH, because I know some people that got the most rare ones. I saw like, there was a couple, I think one sold for 185 ETH. I can't imagine that dude kept it in ETH. Because he did not sound like the kind of person that would keep it in ETH. And so, but other than that, maybe it's
but
is
that's
it
one idea, man.
is
I
it
wonder.
Twitter denying Elon? Is that why? Is that a potential reason why things are going down? I don't know.
Well, my guess,
Well,
man, is
one
something else.
thing,
But yeah, another perspective.
yeah, I mean, one thing that I do know is that like federal officials are really pushing to cool inflation as much as humanly possible so that we don't go into a recession.
It's
And
Yeah,
so,
but those
the
words don't go into a
FO
recession, though.
oh
We're in
yeah,
yeah,
a
it's been like
no,
that for the best FOC or the best meetings
FOMC.
have all been about that. I mean that's been priced in for like 2 months now.
Yeah, that ain't priced in though. They haven't priced it correctly. The market is consistently majorly wrong about where things actually go. And in this case here is one of those pieces that remember when inflation was transitory? Sorry,
right.
it's a joke. But but it's something where so now they have this 8.5% inflation, but who the hell actually believes inflation is 8.5%? When you've got all sorts of consumer indexes pointing closer to a 15 to 20% inflation. And then even if, there's a whole bunch of wizardry that can price that in, okay. The supply chain. 3 weeks ago, a month and a half ago, who knew that Shanghai and multiple other massive, decamillion population cities that are also major manufacturing hubs in China were going to be completely locked down, worse than even 2020. Then we mix on top of that a quarter of the world's food supply just got cut off because it was either through Russian sanctions or through Ukraine being unable to send products out. And then on top of that, we mix the original natural supply chain issues that have already been shocking the market slowly. And this is just a ripple effect of what happened 2 years ago. And then let's just mix in a whole little bit of nuclear threats from Putin talking to Sweden, saying that if they go closer to NATO, then he's going to, I forgot his exact words, but let's just say they're ominous to say the least. So to price that into markets, it's possible, maybe. But if I look at just kind of like you're describing with the NFT markets, I guess, I don't look at NFTs that often. It's definitely not an environment I spend a lot of time inside of. But macro, I spent a good bit of time there, and man, I feel similar when we take a look at what's happening in the markets. I mean, people still think Tesla's a car company.
I wasn't talking about the macro. I was talking about the Fed's measures of quantitative easing to hedge or to slow down inflation to stop a recession. We're saying that in some sense has been priced in since like
well,
February.
that's one of the macro elements. I was just pointing out
that's
that
what I was speaking.
The market isn't a silo. It's a whole ecosystem. You got lions and tigers and bears and all kind of stuff in there.
I know, but I'm saying in reference to the question of what is going on with the market, saying that I don't think that it has anything to do with the Fed's quantitative easing right now or yet.
Gotcha.
It's something else. It's something more macro. Maybe it does have to do with Sweden and Putin or something.
Sweden and Finland. Finland's the other one where they both said, "Hey, we're down."
Enjoy his billionaire life. His trillion. Putin can't shut up and just enjoy his trillionaire life. He has to ruin everything for everybody else.
I know. It's a weird thing about power, man. It does weird things to people, I guess, because I've always wondered, like, how do people manage to do such horrible shit? At the same time, though, it's the world we live in. Well, it makes me wonder, not so horrible, but definitely something worth talking about. Twitter and the lack of freedom and free speech that is there, that Elon Musk is deciding to attack with, I mean, talk about put your money where your mouth is. This bro has dropped tens of billions, a quarter of his entire net worth. And it's not like he has a bunch of extra time on his hands just sitting around twirling his thumbs. This is a dude who's been doing 80 to 100-hour weeks every week for decades because he's afraid of vacations because he always nearly dies when he goes on one. So, I mean, it's one of those things where we know that Elon's a gigabrain. We're not quite there, but like let's play with this. Let's speculate. You're in Elon's shoes. You see everything going on. Brian, I know you were just talking about this stuff. What do you do? What's your 4D chess move to make things happen? What do you do next, I guess?
Oh man. I mean, if we're looking at like if my goal is to buy Twitter and to make it a platform that values free speech, I mean, we can argue back and forth on whether or not Elon's correct, of course, but when it comes to what I would do, I mean, the thing is, like, it's so difficult to put yourself in Elon's shoes because so few of us are the gigabrain with relatively limitless capital. I mean, so at this point, I mean, my first idea just off the hip is just keep putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, like, give them an offer that they cannot refuse. And I mean, not to mention with Jack Dorsey, now showing support for Elon. I mean, I think that I think it's still a good bet for sure. Nate, what do you think?
I mean, $20 over stock price or over share price is a pretty good offer, honestly. Like, it's not even reasonable to offer any more than that.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it
that's
spiked up
pretty good.
once momentarily for a couple of weeks, and then they think that's the new valuation
deal, honestly. So I think that I think that it's the people that are in Twitter right now, I don't even think have really been there since like the fruition of it. And most of the people on the board, board has like a fiduciary responsibility to uphold the wants and needs of their shareholders. The majority of people on the board own like less than 1%. Like if you add up everyone on the board besides Elon, they all own less than 1%. Like add them all up.
Yeah.
And so the judgment call that they're making, I think, has nothing to do with the board at all or with the shareholders at all. It's the fact that I think that the board has been taken over by a group of people that have a specific agenda, because Elon hasn't said really that he will change anything. He said that he wants to promote Twitter, because Twitter in and of itself has become somewhat like a public forum. It's almost like become its own
public square,
its own public square. And so that's all he has said. He has said nothing else. So like if Jeff Bezos came in tomorrow and made them an offer, who has obviously been a mouthpiece, for the left for quite some years now, would they sell to him? I don't know, and I'm not speaking. We can't make any inference from hypotheticals. But the fact of the matter is, Elon hasn't really said anything that should be controversial. He hasn't said anything that should turn anybody against.
They're just trying to cover their ass, the board of directors there.
But it's like Jeff Bezos, when he bought the Washington Post a couple of years ago, the whole media praised him. Like, oh, Jeff Bezos, amazing, man. Keep buying the Washington Post. And then what do they write about Elon? It's like hasty, hostile, billionaire trying to destroy company with hostile takeover. It's like the inverse relationship is hilarious to watch, because honestly, what has he said that he will do that is controversial? Almost nothing.
I saw a meme. We probably saw it floating around. Spaceman bad.
Spaceman. I mean,
it has an army of people with the Twitter heads.
So it's like I don't know what Elon can do, because it's like I don't know if the SEC. I don't know like the full extent to the laws of the
They give
SEC.
him
I
a
mean,
slap on the wrist. It's a cost of doing business to him.
Elon says that he has a plan B. No one knows what that. I don't think anybody knows what that plan B is yet. I really hope it's not to start another platform or like launch another platform, because I don't think that would be the best
I think
idea.
he's gonna start a coup because he was already at 9.2 or 9.3% or something when his SEC agreement is that if he takes more than 5% of something or something like that. I don't know the exact details, but around 5% is the point he's supposed to report that. And it's a strict timeline. It's like 24 to 48 hours. So he didn't do that. He kept on getting more stock. And the only reason we know about how much he got was because of the filing he has to make.
Right.
So if he was willing already, and it has proven that he was willing to completely neglect, or maybe he's not neglecting it. I think it's factored into the equation. The SEC, there's only so much they can fine him for being late on reporting a document. Like it would be unreasonable for if he's supposed to report it in 48 hours and he does it in 96, or even if he pushes it longer, to say, oh well, that's going to be $50 million. It's obscene. So these fees, they typically range in the hundreds of thousands, which, I mean, that's a rounding error at the level of Elon Musk. And so I don't know, the speculation I've seen that seems to be the most promising is he probably has closer to 15 to 20% of Twitter by now. And he's just continued buying without asking for anybody's opinion, at which case he can rally multiple other large shareholders together.
Right.
At which case, even if there is a poison pill, he can still make a lot of changes because they don't have anything to stand against. It's just he's offered a good deal, especially with the market going down. He's definitely got the technological capacity to be able to do amazing things. I mean, could you imagine Twitter with Dojo? And then let's decentralize the data so that way we can start to collect information, understand how the world really works.
Right.
That's some stuff that doesn't exist. And then it'd be more profitable too, because there'd be all sorts of ways to monetize this data. You'd have all sorts of applications being built on top of the data engine that is Twitter. And of course, the public square and the user base, that's just one part of it. And yeah, sure, advertising will be a component, but my guess, my dubious speculation is that Elon Musk, there's good parts to it too. I think he genuinely wants to have a free place for people to communicate. But I also think that he understands how AI works. He knows you need a massive, just gnarly amount of data to really make it effective. And there's very few companies on the planet that have the technological prowess to be able to process that level of information. So even though Twitter has it, they're not likely able to actually do what they need to with it. On the other hand, you take Dojo, which is capable of simultaneously running millions upon millions of automated cars and pretty soon humanoid robots. Yeah, I think it's going to be able to handle a couple of 140 character messages between people. And that's where it's just, from a profitability standpoint, I think he's got it under his sleeve. He's got it in his sleeve already. And on top of that, there's no way he's alone. Elon's got friends, and he's the kind of guy that can make friends. I don't know what plan B is going to be, but if it's him versus the board is trying to keep their job and their dignity. Unfortunately,
right? And that's not how it should be. That's like the exact opposite. And I honestly, I wonder, like, when does the SEC step in and say, like, okay, you're breaking the fiduciary code of like what being a board means. I mean, and when you go public, everyone will say, well, like, oh, shouldn't the board be able to just be able to be free and do what they want to do? It's like, well, when you become a public company, that's where things change. And that's why Elon wants to take it private so that they can do what they want to do versus be subject to like the government or any overarching organizations that might have a say or control in what actually happens or goes on. And it's like, well, when you become public, you become subject to that, and they are. So I don't know what the SEC will do in this instance, where they're, my opinion, I think they're breaking their fiduciary code.
I mean, we'll see if they
So
take the deal. Did you hear about the valuation with Goldman Sachs?
I did. I
It's
heard
freaking
about it.
hilarious.
We didn't. They advised them not to take the deal, right?
Well, so they're trying to argue that Elon didn't offer enough money. So they hired this investment bank to do a valuation and to make
Yeah,
it look
Goldman Sachs. Yeah, great investment bank.
So what they did is, well, Goldman Sachs actually already announced what they think the valuation of Twitter is, and they said it's not even worth $30 a share. And this was the most recent report that they made about Twitter. So
Wow.
Twitter hired these people to try to convince the public or the judge or whoever the heck is on the other end of this thing that Twitter is worth more than $54 when their last report said that Twitter is worth less than 30, which then begs the question, what could possibly have changed? But,
Right.
you
How
know,
long ago was that last report?
yeah, I'd love to know. Luckily, we got the internet here. Let me just see what we got. Yeah, so they say Twitter's a target price of $30, and that was on by battling ads. February 10th, it looks like. So 2 months ago.
So magically, Twitter has just been able to just double valuation, more than double their valuation
No, that's
in the
about
past 2 months.
so they're at 37 at the time. Goldman Sachs said they think it's worth 30, and now they're
Right, 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 yeah.
80% higher than where they suggested. So to see an 80% valuation increase, so if we play with the numbers, that ends up being well over $20 billion of value. So yeah, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there because either they commit fraud and lie about the numbers, or well, they say it's a good deal. At which case, the board is in a really awkward position. Again, going back to fiduciary responsibility, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to go nicely. Unfortunately, I think that there's a lot of corruption involved. I think there's some backroom deals going on, and regardless of logic and reason, and the whole Goldman Sachs thing is funny, but Goldman Sachs is also one of the most powerful banks on the literal planet. They're about as powerful as it gets. I mean, yeah, just legendary. If you look at politics across the world, they call it the revolving door, where usually you go from Ivy League school with connections to Goldman Sachs, and you leave Goldman Sachs, you go work in the public sector for a little bit. You just maybe do some regulatory jobs, maybe pass the bar and pick up, become a judge or something. Just all sorts of creative stuff, and then strangely enough, they get great consulting gigs. They become consultants for Goldman Sachs later on. It's well-established system. At the same time, though, so either way, regardless of what happens, I'm not here to say here's what I think is going to happen, and I think all of us have it's accepted. Like we're not the giga brains like Elon Musk is, but to be able to think about just how weird this world is, we may not agree with it, and I hate what Russia is doing to Ukraine right now. It really breaks my heart. And I hate to see that America is not the freest country anymore. Unfortunately, it's tough to say. The systems have changed a whole lot, and in this case here, I feel like we get to see it live. How does the American system work? Is it something that the people's voice going to get out, or is the corrupt system going to continue to control everything? I don't know, but it'll be fun to find out. And I don't think Elon Musk is the kind of guy to give up very easily. I mean, this is the same dude that spent every dollar that he had to create two companies, both of which were damn near impossible to pull off, and stick to it, just failing violently. And gloriously for a decade, and then being able to
Right.
bounce back up. I think he's going to be able to handle a year's worth of pain, the poison pills that people put in. Anyways,
You
so I
know,
think,
I have a burning question to sort of wrap up Elon talk weekly.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
we talk about Elon every week.
we didn't
if
talk about Elon in the last call. We were just too busy talking about making money in business.
For sure, for sure. Well, to wrap up Elon talk, you know, I'm thinking, and I really want to hear your guys' perspectives, because we're just kind of hanging out today. Um,
Yeah,
if we were
today
to
is really
find,
organized.
yeah, well, hey, I mean, if we were to find ancient, or sorry, alien civilizations out there, would Elon be the person to represent planet Earth, or would you guys have someone else if not?
See, that's a tough question because it's something where when I think of alien's a broad topic, my friend. I mean, if we just
Of
take
course.
all literal life and what's questionably life on Earth, and then just multiply it by an actual infinity, that's the possibility of the spectrum. It could be everything from silent aliens that they don't communicate. They're completely different. It could be sleeper aliens that they exist, but maybe they're communicating to us in some kind of a dream. It could be some kind of an alien species that is still very, very small, and so it's something that I don't know. It's just like I look at it as I think the representation would really depend on what type of interaction are we looking at. Are they coming out swinging? Do we need a wartime alien representative, or is it something where they're coming asking for us for help? In which case, what in God's name do they need help from?
Right.
It's just all sorts of
The
different
Q.
items. The queue, yeah. In that case, then it doesn't even matter who we send.
It doesn't matter who we send. I mean, we eventually
Unfortunately,
just,
these
I
things
mean,
are doing genetic engineering for funsies, and they live to be billions of years old. I hate to say it, but they're not going to give a crap about our nukes. Um,
for sure, for
they'll
sure.
just turn us into
That's
creatures that eat radiation afterwards. Like that's either way. So yeah, no, it's an interesting question, man. I like that. At the same point, though, it's interesting bringing up the topic of aliens too, because I think about artificial intelligence a whole lot lately. Mainly because if you think about the value of data, I hate to bring it back to Elon Musk, but one of those things he's got still cooking is the robot. They've got some beta test bots going out there. Have you guys seen any of those videos yet?
maybe scrolling
The
past,
Tesla
you know, one
robots?
or two.
Oh yeah, the Tesla bots.
Yeah, I've seen them.
It's so freaking weird, and to see just how soon they are from production. I mean, we're talking about a year at this point, and I don't know. I haven't seen iRobot in a while, but I'm just. It's one of those things where I'm sure Elon has figured out ways to make sure that they don't Terminator us. At the same
Dude,
time,
this
though,
what the
you're seeing it now.
dude? Oh my goodness. This prototype is literally dancing like a human. That's just silly.
I just
That's
realized I muted
scary.
myself. So that's the original one, like the original release, and when they first announced, when they first announced the bot. Now they have a
Right.
couple actual bots that are out in the wild with people, um, and I'm guessing we'll be starting to see more and more because, yeah, it's great marketing. Everyone's curious, but at the same time, the thing that has just been ringing in my ears is Elon Musk was talking about how the bots will eclipse everything they're doing at Tesla. Like, think about that. They're already worth more than all the other car manufacturers combined, pretty much. Maybe it's not that full amount, but it's pretty damn big,
So one of the only ones to not go bankrupt.
right? Which is really impressive given Elon Musk's track record. He's been through some stuff. So it's like, what are these bots for? But then I thought, I kept, I mean, again, I keep on thinking about this. Well, construction work. Right now in Ukraine, you got all sorts of landmines and stuff everywhere. Some bots would be really useful for that. Shipping, that'd be great. Oil and gas, we need a lot of extraction. And he even encouraged, Germany's like Europe. He's like, y'all need to get more gas. And then
Home
nuclear,
care.
of course. Say again?
Home care. I'm thinking about like elderly
Exactly.
folks.
That's a great option too. It's just there's so many things that if a bot understands language, it's able to learn, it's able to develop itself. If the AI system's already been built because it's been training for a decade on being able to drive around, he very well may have a what one of my old buddies used to call a me only market. It's the optimal condition in business where you're the only one. You can. It's not even a blue ocean. It's just only you. And I don't know if there's anyone else really that close to Elon. Google could be, but the challenge is that, from what I'm seeing, is Google's spread pretty thin. They've got Google X, which has been pursuing. The whole concept is what can they do technologically that can impact a billion people within 10 years? And they just invest in a whole bunch of these projects. Most of them fail miserably and hilariously. Some of them end up sticking and creating world-changing products. But they've got so many of them going at once that they can't go all in on these investments. But then Elon, he's pretty damn focused. I mean, the Boring Company is the only thing that maybe you could say is pretty far. I'd say Neuralink is going pretty well on track. I mean, they have a robot that does brain surgery that would be physically impossible for a human to do. That's
They
progress.
did surgery on a grape.
Yes, exactly. They're doing stuff. The Boring Company, I think that's more of a regulation thing, unfortunately for them. But this is a guy that everything he puts his mind towards, he dominates. So I don't know. I bring that up just because it's made me think about, okay, well, Elon, when he's making this stuff, it's typically for the good of humanity. And he probably recognizes that, well, are you going to bring a $16 an hour construction worker to Mars? It's it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to have a whole bunch of labor camps for that. So it makes a lot of sense. But if you have that, things are already getting weird in terms of job losses and job disappearances. I mean, a lot of jobs that were lost, they just don't exist anymore because there's a software for most of these things now. And so when we get to where there's a software, there's a machine that's able to do construction or medical or whatever types of items there are, and there's only one computer on the planet at the time that's able to process all this data. And on top of that, whenever he's able to own like something like a Twitter, where he has complete awareness of what's happening on a global level,
Mm.
we really, I mean, I'm not saying Elon Musk is a world supervillain or nothing, but if he wanted to be, it would be the best supervillain ever, because that touches every aspect of our society, especially if Starlink internet really becomes the de facto in a lot of places, which traveling around, I would say it very well could be. You take a place like Germany, which is one of the leading superpowers of the world. You would think that their internet is competent, but no, it's horrible. And it's
Mhm.
hilariously bad how rough the German internet is. So if all of a sudden, boom, you pay a little bit more, but you got 150 megabits plus anywhere on the planet, you could be in Kenya, Ethiopia, Guatemala, or Berlin, and still access 150 megabits plus per second more in a lot of places. And then you have free communication. No one can stop you. And imagine what it's going to cost anything either. Advertising becomes, you get a lot more inventory because it's a lot more effective. And then on top of that, they'll make it to where the data engine on top of it is what happens. Then that data is being outsourced to Google, who's already partnering with Starlink. And that makes it to where then between Starlink, Google, and probably whatever he outsources elements of Dojo for, you're talking like Amazon plus plus. So I wonder. I mean, a part of me does think. I know I took it back to Twitter. I did that.
Took it back. We're all the way back around.
A part
We
of
just
me
stopped
thinks,
it,
man.
and now
I'm
we're
not.
all the way
I
back.
like Elon a lot, and I'm not saying he has any ill intentions. I'm just saying, if I put my supervillain hat on, that's the best move to take. And even if not a supervillain, though, it is something where it has to make us think as business people. How
I
do
mean,
we compete in a world like that? Like, just
I mean,
imagine.
maybe Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some advantage. I mean, I can't imagine
For
that
sure there are.
he's a master strategist, and so I can't imagine. But at the same time, I think that Elon didn't just start promoting stuff like free speech or freedom of individual rights like just last week. He's been promoting
Right.
it for years and years ever since he's really been in the major public eye, and so um, I think there's reason to believe that he does like functionally care a lot about about people and about individual rights and about the freedoms that America gives. So, or maybe he doesn't. I mean, maybe he is the ultimate supervillain that's out to get us all. But
Oh, I'm just joking about the
um,
supervillain. I like to think he's going to be good. But I wonder, in a world
yeah,
like that, though, how does money get made? Because I mean, in 2006, 2005, it would have been real difficult to imagine us in 2017 being just an itty bitty tiny derivative part of an industry that does hundreds of billions of dollars, mostly from people working from home from computers like us. The
Mhm.
social media advertising industry mixed with the affiliate marketing industry is just massive. And sure, a lot of it's programmatic, but again, a lot of those devs, dudes in the basement sitting in their underwear. Like it's just it's a very small world. And social media was a joke back then. Social media was just a silly, weird thing. You had a freaking Badger song and what were some other originals?
I mean,
Was there any
Charlie the
old
Unicorn,
Charlie
you
the
know.
Unicorn? I was trying to remember this
Yeah.
and I could not. All I remember was I'm old Greg. Do you laugh?
Greg, you have a
You had
drink Bailey's for my
MySpace.
stew.
Bailey's. I didn't know what Bailey's was. I was so young. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no. So it's
Dude.
like that was the internet at one point, and that was about the peak. We had some games, some Flash games. Flash, that was a thing.
Ah,
Oh
before
yeah.
before Steve Jobs just absolutely um what do you call that? Just slit its throat. Just it was done, killed, game over. So,
yeah, I
anyways, I
miss
say that because if
MySpace.
we look at it from that perspective, uh, up to Uber, from Charlie the Unicorn to Uber, that's the same technological leap we're talking about to go from right now to whatever the hell is coming up in 4 to 6 years. So maybe it's not useful to just try to speculate what's Elon going to do with the world tomorrow. I don't know. I don't think anybody does. Even Elon seems to be figuring it out as he goes. He's just really good at that. But it seems like it's useful as a business, from a business standpoint, to position your company for what might the future look like. Because a lot of businesses went kicking and screaming to make a website. And some businesses still refuse to get a competent website, even though you've got so many drag and drop tools that are now easy to use. A lot of
Mm.
businesses, they still refuse to use social media. They're still going off of referrals. That didn't go so well after COVID though. So you're gonna have these businesses that are always just 5 steps behind technology. So if we just look forward, well, it's for sure going to be about machine learning and artificial intelligence. There's going to be a major component to it of if not some type of Web3 integration, so people are able to interact with whatever value and forms of expression that they prefer on the internet. It's going to need to have some kind of verifiability because at some point people are not going to just trust or just want to give away everything any longer unless the big companies somehow figure out a way to keep people up. I don't think so. Like I've thought, what if Google, Amazon, and Facebook all came together and decided the internet now costs $10 a month? I don't know, like everything that they control. It'd be weird, it'd be uncomfortable, but like who can really stop that? In this case here, Elon Musk. So
Well, I
from the
think
business, yeah.
So
I
what's the
mean
question?
now that
What's the question?
Oh, there was no question. It was more so just an idea of so then it looks as a business to see, well, how can you benefit from machine learning and AI? Because now we have a good half a decade of jobs being just relentlessly exterminated by automation. And sure, ML and AI is typically just used as a buzzword. And so unfortunately, a lot of people can kind of miss the realistic benefit that can happen by pretty much anybody with access to a computer, the internet, and we're willing to take a couple hours to watch some tutorials on YouTube can access machine learning. but it's still something I don't see companies talking about a whole lot. So I say that because one of those things that I think, even if we're not thinking about super villain level stuff, I think for businesses to start looking now on how can they elevate themselves from machine learning or AI. What are their competitors doing? What do they wish they could do? What is the things that they're doing now that a Tesla bot or some type of a a Tesla car style automation? Okay, I saw a tweet today that really sunk in. That was like 10, 15 years from now, it's probably going to seem like an ancient relic to own your own car. Because if you think about it, if we don't have to commute to work, we don't drive very often. And so if there's a autonomous network of cars that can go anywhere, everywhere, and if some of them we can still control if we want to, I'm sure that would be an option. Yeah, it's not really needed. 15 years from now, I could see that totally not being a thing. So anyways, I wondered then,
Yeah.
I guess there wasn't a question, but more so comes down to, so do you think there's credence to that? Do you think that's something that reality of machine learning, AI being a necessity to figure out, or else very well these opportunities could just disappear in a flash, so no different than the companies that never went to the internet or never got on the social media? Or do you think things go a completely different direction? I'm curious what y'all think.
Well, there was a lot of things you said there. Trying to simply break it down.
AI public transit. Narrow it down.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, well, let's talk. All
Just
right,
pick
well,
something random.
public transit.
You
All right.
literally said that.
So, yeah, in regards to public transit, I think that I don't even think Elon believes that it won't be to the fact that nobody owns cars and nobody will go anywhere anymore. I don't even think
No, people
because
will go at more places more likely. If it's just that they'll call an Uber the same, they'll call a Tesla the same way we call an Uber.
yeah, maybe so. And I think maybe in certain places. Like I think
For
it's
sure.
like you think about New York, right? It's what like in New York, you don't majority of people in New York don't own cars, right?
Yeah, if
But
you
if
go
you
like
go
the
out to like
rural South,
if you
rural
go to
Colorado or
Southern
something.
Alabama or if you go up to Montana, you're not going to be able to get an Uber out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I honestly don't think in that aspect a ton will change all that much. I think there will be a lot of aspects that will be easier. Like maybe there won't be as many cars that are owned. Like in certain, like I think about like okay, um, and it really depends because it's like I think about like somebody who really doesn't have to go somewhere that much. If they can just borrow my Tesla and I can program my Tesla to drive over to their house and they can then take my Tesla to wherever they need to go and then it comes back and then they send it back. But then it's like okay, well, what if I need to go somewhere and do something? I think as long as long as we're still individuals, there will always be like first off, I believe that there is a strict human condition of individualism, but also like I think that the whole Charles Schwab World Economic Forum, like you won't own anything, be happy, is total BS because it's like in our nature to have ownership and claim of things since the beginning of time. Everyone's wanted more land, everyone's wanted more animals. Like if you think about like first century, like everybody has had ownership and in the first century, that meant something. That meant something really important. It meant something for like your generation. It meant something for your future generations that you owned things. And so, and I think that condition has standed the tests of time through every innovation ever.
Sure, but
I
there
think
could be
things
a
are.
decrease, like
I think
20%.
things are just yeah. I think things might just decrease in some ways. But I don't think like the same way with VR, right? Elon doesn't believe for a second that everyone's just going to sit around with VR glasses all day long and never get up, and we're all going to get sucked into this world. No, because number one, they're insanely uncomfortable. Like, two, like they're not
I
comfortable
think
at all a
Neuralink will
long
come
period
out
of
before a
time.
comfortable VR headset.
Yeah, and so it's like they're not comfortable. But even with Neuralink, like you know, I guess it depends upon the capacity at which they try and move that forward. But even I think Neuralink, like that's that's so far away from like mass adoption in terms of like I was just talking to this dude about it the other day actually, and it was really funny because he didn't even know about it. And he's
Yeah.
a pretty smart guy, I think. And so he didn't even know about it. He was like tripping about it, like could not even functionally like understand to the extent of it. And I think there is a lot of issues with Neuralink, like in terms of to build trust with the public that will need to be like really handled. Um, a lot of issues, at least on my front when I look at it. I think it could be very useful in a lot of ways, and I understand why it's being done. I think from a business perspective, um, yeah, I think it's hard, and it's like it's like I guess you could call it an evolutionary principle that it's survival of the fittest kind of thing, where it's like there's nothing we can do to force a business to look into AI or want to invest in AI, and so uh, if you don't want to move, if you don't want to move along with the ebbs and flows of things and upgrade and invest, and you want to keep doing things the way things are or way things were, then you're probably, businesses die every day. And there will be just as many businesses that are formed in the future, probably more businesses that are formed in the future than there probably will be than there are now. And I would be interested to see the statistics of like in
I
like
agree with
10
that
years,
completely. Yeah.
how many businesses are being formed versus like now, because because it's so easy to start a business right now.
Hmm.
How much easier will it be maybe in like 10 years, and
No,
how
that's
many
a
more
real
people will
interesting
want
perspective,
businesses,
especially with Web3, making it to where you could probably submit your forms. Imagine not having to
Yeah.
go through the whole business corporation process. Some standardized thing that automatically puts you where you
Well,
can
and the
access
desire,
capital, talent.
and just the desire to start a business,
Yeah.
like just more people wanting to be entrepreneurs. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think in a lot of ways things will become a lot easier in some respects, and I think that you'll have you'll have a lot of industry changes that will inevitably lead to loss of jobs in certain sectors, but also creation of jobs in others. Um, and But I think that's the way of every revolution that has ever happened. Every new invention ever.
So that's the part
Um,
I hone on though.
Right.
I hone in on though because then there's definitely going to be a shift, a change of some type. And so the question for most self-respecting business owners I know are trying to make more money, and they don't like to make less money.
right.
And so, you know, if we want to grow, but we know that a lot of businesses are about to shrink. Let's say automotive, for sure. Not everybody, and 100% of people are not going to go and turn in their keys. Hell no. 20% of people probably will. I would argue that if a Tesla costs half as much as an Uber and can take you anywhere, and you don't have to worry about anything, go on a road trip and just spend the time with your family the entire time, where the seats are even face to each other, you can play board games or whatever, put some
That's a dream
screens
of
in the
mine,
middle.
honestly, to buy a car with rotating seats.
Yeah, it's a trip to think about. So it's like, and especially if it's cheap, it's safe, and there's all these different benefits come in. I'm going to guess more than 20% of people are going to be interested in that. In which case, you're talking about, 20%, 30%, 40%, that's tens of billions of dollars that doesn't trickle down into the jobs of the people who are working for all that, the supply chain, all those vendors and contractors involved with it, whatever transportation, logistics was doing all that before. It's the business is different. And so for a company like us, where we're on the cutting edge, I thought you had a really interesting point where I was looking at existing businesses who aren't excited to potentially take a 20, 30% haircut, especially while their competitors are scaling 20 to 30% faster. The ones who do get technologically advanced. Your approach about new businesses coming in, because you're right, there's a lot more entrepreneurs now than there were in 2005.
Right.
It's way more difficult back then, even just learning how
Mhm.
to do it. And now it's something where, I mean, how many anonymous projects have raised more than $1 million? It's borderline easy at this point, proportionally.
Right.
So they'll probably be starting off data native, at which case, oh man, that's going to be fun. Well, that was what I had in mind when I said ML uncovered. Crypto crashes. We talked a little bit about that. And then, of course, Elon aping into Twitter, or Apelon. You guys like that. Don't lie.
Yeah.
Silly.
Next NFT drop right there.
Well,
Apelon,
yeah.
Apelon Inu. Oh,
should-
we
just
probably
kill me
should have
now.
talked
Let me just
about,
go run into traffic for being so cringe.
We probably should have talked about Bored Apes and ApeCoin and stuff like that, but I guess we could talk about that at a later time.
Yeah, I actually don't know anything about ApeCoin except that it exists. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are. Well, if it was the airdrop for basically owning a Bored Ape, it's like their utility token. A lot of speculation um, about Coinbase NFT and about the land that's getting dropped by Yuga Labs, who created Bored Apes, and like how you're going to be able to get that land. So there's a lot of speculation on once the Yuga land does drop, that instead of being able to buy it with ETH, you could buy it with Ape, or potentially either or. So that's what I know about thus far. But that's a very I mean, nobody knows anything about it yet, but it's a very anticipated drop. The Bored Ape, when the actual metaverse that's being made for the Bored Ape stuff. So yeah,
That's
highly
gonna be, there's a
anticipated.
lot of money in Bored Apes. I can only imagine what they're gonna put together. I mean, even deaf, dumb, and blind with that type of access, influence, and resources.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's something
Yeah.
awesome.
Hopefully it's not like Moonbirds, that piece of garbage.
They only got 70 million. Hey, if they manage to beat Pixelmon,
I hope everybody in that crap gets rugged. I hope everybody in Moonbird, because they're just it's just like there's so many underrated. There's so much underrated stuff out there. And then there's somebody buying a freaking pixelated owl that I don't think has any utility yet. Like, don't quote me on that, but I don't really think it has any functional utility
I
or
mean, they
really a lot of
probably have a
plans
metaverse game or
or
something. Some
anything like
kids,
that. Oh, metaverse game, like everybody else.
some
So it's like,
16-year-old is gonna put Pong 2.0 and call it a metaverse
yeah.
game.
So that's what makes me mad about. I mean, maybe I am salty that I missed the drop.
Maybe a little.
Because I do. I mean, the
So do you
chances of me
think,
getting
would
it
you
were low
talk differently
anyways.
now if you had one?
Well, I would. I mean, I definitely would have sold it. Like, flip. I would not hold it whatsoever, because, like, yeah, that's the speculation, the fact that so much money is being put into it. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just not. Steady growth is a lot better than pump and dump. So the fact that the things are pumping so hard with for no reason, there's just money being funneled into this stuff. I would have flipped it right away, which I know it's sure. Yeah, sure. I probably would have, if I could have sold it for 10 ETH and the next day it goes up to 20, I wouldn't have been mad. I would have said, fine, I don't care. Made money off of it, great. But man, if you're still holding on to Moonbird, it's like, maybe it works out, but I would be pooping my pants, like, to get out of that as quick as possible, because you just don't know, and there's just no logic behind it. And even from like a perception perspective, or like a risk analysis perspective, the probabilities are just not in favor of it going good. Like, in so many ways, it just doesn't make sense. So, and if I can't find a string of logic, or if I can't find because it's like, okay, if maybe if like 20,000 ETH had gone through it so far, maybe if it was still sitting around 10, okay, that sounds good. That probably wouldn't be bad. But 69 to almost 70,000 ETH in like less than 48 hours. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something's iffy to me about that. I don't know.
Well, man, it's a dark note to end on, but as I look at things, it is looking closer and closer to mega dump the closer I look, because what we just went through, it looks a lot like a relief rally. I know a lot of people aren't ready to hear that, but it kind of looks like that, and it doesn't look like the war is going to end anytime soon, and that does weird things to markets and supply chains.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, man. It's one of those things where if I feel like crypto was on the cusp of getting mainstream adoption, and we just missed it because for the fundamentals of crypto, they're there, and that's why I'm excited for it. But I think we got 2 or 3 years until we really have that mass adoption curve. And the reason is because when I look at it, I don't think there's enough liquidity, actual liquidity, moving in the crypto markets for national adoption, like for major countries. You know, Germany is getting real crypto friendly. They've got a lot of nice crypto regulation, and so I'm hoping that the states are able to just copy and paste Germany and Singapore, and they'll iterate from there. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm interested to
But-
see what happens. 'Cause I thought that crypto could save, but probably not.
And I
If
hate
that's the
all
case,
this.
that's a great
I
opportunity
hate-
for everyone here.
I hate every political announcement where I see some politicians say, "Oh, Bitcoin's gonna be the future," you know, and like I hate Ted Cruz, like, "Oh yeah, Texas has got to be the bedrock of Bitcoin," or like
Bedrock of
cryptocurrency, something
Bitcoin.
like that. Yeah, or like something like that. I'm like,
Weren't these the
bro,
same ones shitting on Bitcoin for the last decade?
well, I think Cruz has liked it for the most part.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just mean politicians in general.
But
That's
it's like,
awesome.
yeah, but I mean, I hate every political thing, like at least in the United States so far, because it's like, okay, it's the same thing with all these stupid influencer conventions where they get a bunch of people up on stage to talk about crypto that have never built anything, that have never actually like started like something on like the Ethereum EVM or like even or started a blockchain at all. Don't know any have no developer experience and haven't done anything. Like, why is Logan Paul speaking at VCon? Doesn't make any sense. He's never done anything.
Well,
Like in
Nate,
reference to
don't
like
you
crypto,
know?
you know?
Dink doink. Were you
Yeah.
not aware
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
game?
that wasn't just a rug or any of that junk. What did? Yeah, nobody suffered from that at all. But it's like
Oh,
it's the same thing with these politicians. It's like, okay, if you want Texas to be the bedrock, I even tweeted this to Ted Cruz. I'm like, let's build something. What are you building? Like, reach out to me, bro.
I think
I'll help
Miami is
you.
doing. Miami's
Let's
doing some
build
moves,
some stuff. You know.
but most places are not for sure, and that's why I say it's unpopular. But I feel like there was supposed to be a major pump. There very well might still be, but I think it's going to be suppressed, which is going to end up being a massively awesome buying opportunity because the same way that a lot of us sometimes kind of wish we were there in 2018 after things crashed, started buying from there and just kept on accumulating because we'd be pretty good right now. We have that opportunity right now, probably. And whether it goes up, whether it goes down, I don't know. No, you're inside fucking out. But it's something where if we look at it from just a purely technical, logical standpoint, one, I think it's amazing that it is true. It's just how early we are. And then two, if whatever legends might be watching, not just a podcast from this cringy early days of us here at Monetization Machine, just sticking around,
so funny
talking
down the
about
road.
whatever.
Looking at how stupid we are.
Yeah, but whatever legend is watching to the absolute end, what should the comment be, Ryan? Like, well, what phrase should they drop in the comments? And yeah, we've got to think of something special for future us.
Dude, monetize everything.
Monetize, yeah, just drop a comment that says monetize everything if you are one of those special few who watch this far in. Anyways, gents, it's been awesome.
Also, drop in Cardano sucks.
Gotta get at least one of those each. You know,
Yeah, it's gotta be something
Cardano,
fun.
man.
It's gonna be
I'm not
something
even-
funny too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I don't know yet.
Well, gentlemen,
figure
it's
it
always
out.
awesome seeing you. I think I'm gonna miss you this week. I'm gonna be doing some travels for doing some crypto travels. But till then, see y'all soon. Bye for now.